The LiberNovo Omni chair experience has been a bit of a wild ride, but now that I finally have one chair in hand, I can finally share some of my experience so far. I am going to go through my entire Kickstarter experience, including cost and timeline details, and also shipping. So if you want to hear directly about assembly or my first impressions using the chair, you can skip ahead to those sections with the chapters below. Okay, to start, I found out about this chair in around late July, and I pledged around that time. And I've been super excited about the chair ever since I found out about it. And I wasn't one of the super early bird backers, like one of the earliest out of the gate, but I did pledge soon enough to get a pretty good deal on the chairs. So I think I was kind of toward the end of the campaign actually, but I was still early enough to get some of the early bird pricing. And in order to get one chair and one footrest for both my partner and I chose the 2-chair bundle, and then I added on one footrest, because by that time, all of the campaign rewards had been unlocked at that point, which included one free footrest with each pledge. So we got one footrest for free included, and then I added on the second one. At the early bird price, the 2-chair bundle cost $1,352, which comes out to around $676 per chair. The one add-on footrest cost $89, and I should say this is US dollars, by the way. So in total, I paid $1,441 for the 2 chairs, and then what will come out to be 2 total footrests, plus a lot of other campaign rewards. And since then, it's only late September now, so it's only been a couple of months since I originally pledged, and now I have received 1 chair and 1 footrest. And I think that's actually a really impressive timeline for a Kickstarter campaign. Of course, it is Kickstarter, which means that nothing is guaranteed. You could end up pledging money and then having nothing to show for it after, and the campaign managers might just bugger off and you'll never see your money again. And that has happened to me a couple of times. So for me to have pledged in late July, then the campaign to have ended and pledges be collected in late August, and now we're seeing shipping happening in mid and late September, I think that's a pretty efficient timeline by Kickstarter standards. I have not received all of the rewards yet, so I only have gotten the black chair and the black footrest so far, and I'm still waiting on the gray chair and the gray footrest, plus all of the other campaign rewards. But now that I have 1 footrest and 1 chair, and I've spent a little bit of time in it, I do have enough thoughts and first impressions to make a video about it. Next, let me talk about the shipping experience. LiberNovo received the midnight black chairs and footrests at their warehouses first. So all of the first batches that started going out in mid-September were only those black ones. A lot of backers have received their black chairs, me included, and there are also still some backers who are still waiting on black chairs in different parts of the US. And also I'm only really going into US shipping because that's like mainly what's happening right now. I think other regions of the world are later in their schedule. I saw a lot of backers having trouble with getting the survey in the first place, which is how they collect what color and size preferences you want, and the delay in submitting their surveys led to a delay in getting their chairs as well, especially for those who specifically signed up for their Kickstarter account using the Apple account creation method, which keeps your email private and only shows Kickstarter a randomly generated Apple email address. And I really feel bad for those folks because they couldn't have known that that would be an issue, but with this campaign specifically, it really has been an issue. So if you take away one thing from this video, then let it be this. If you do decide to sign up for a Kickstarter account at any point, I really recommend not using the Apple sign up function. Just sign up with a regular email address that you would want to use to communicate with campaigns. It'll make it so much easier, I promise. I personally, thankfully, didn't really have any problems submitting my survey and creating my Pledgebox account, which is the pledge manager that LiberNovo is working with. The surveys for early backers were sent out on September 1st, and I submitted my survey on September 2nd. I received tracking info for the black footrest from Pledgebox on September 8th, and then that black footrest was delivered on September 10th. And then there was a good deal of waiting for me, but I knew that they were working on shipping as fast as they could and they had a lot of orders to get to, so I didn't worry too much, and eventually I got the shipping info for the black chair from Pledgebox on September 21st. And then the big 66-pound chair package was delivered on September 23rd. Thankfully, the pledge box emails with the tracking info were working for me, so I was getting those properly. But for a lot of people, they were not getting any tracking info from pledge box whatsoever. And I saw some backers recommending people to go into FedEx and create an account specifically with the same email so that they would then get tracking updates from FedEx. But I think that still didn't work for everyone, so some people just didn't get any tracking info at all from anywhere, and then they had packages show up spontaneously and unexpectedly. And understandably, that was like a huge nuisance for some backers because they had this really big, heavy, and also valuable package show up at their doorstep unannounced and left vulnerable outside their homes because the shipping was sent with no signature required. Hopefully no one actually got their package stolen. The package is 66 pounds, so it's more difficult to run off with, but the footrest packages are much smaller and they're only like 6 pounds, so those could definitely be easy to get away with. But yeah, a lot of people in the comments were understandably pissed because they were going to be out of town and they couldn't warn family or friends to watch out for the package. So I'm really grateful that my shipping experience so far has been pretty smooth, but it has not been the case for everyone. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the assembly and some tips that I have along the way if you haven't already assembled yours. As I mentioned, the box is 66 pounds, so it is really large and heavy. If you can get someone else to help you carry it in, or if you have like a small hand truck or something to help you carry it, then that'll make your life a lot easier. And then once you're ready to unbox it, I really recommend trying to orient the box with the this way up arrows pointing up. That way you'll encounter all of the components inside the box in the intended order, starting with the instruction guide. Overall, I think the chair assembly and unboxing, like those two processes combined, took me around 20 minutes, and that was with no other help, it was just me. A few of the components are kind of heavy and unwieldy, but even I, a 5'1", small woman, was able to do it all myself. And then the footrest assembly only took me like 5 minutes, so it was very simple. I started out using the safety gloves that they provided, but then quickly needed to take them off for something, and then just ended up not putting them back on. So thankfully I didn't get pinched myself, but they do have safety gloves if you are concerned, because there are some parts of the assembly that possibly could pinch you a little bit. The instruction guide is pretty simplified. They wanted to get it all on one panel. So it's mostly just images. It doesn't have a lot of words going on. But if you find yourself unsure or confused at any point, I really recommend just pulling up the assembly video instead. You'll probably have a lot better time. I, for some reason, stubbornly wanted to keep using just the instruction guide that they provided in the box. So I definitely had a few times where I could have used more information, more guidance, more words probably, but in case anyone else finds themselves confused in those spots, I'm going to clarify a few of the things that gave me some confusion. The first thing is that the instructions did not clearly spell out that you have to put the seat and backrest adjustment knob little mechanism thing, which is hanging off a wire. The instructions don't clarify that that all needs to be hanging off of the right side of the seat before you put the seat cushion down on. I did not realize that at first, so I had it kind of coming toward the front, and then I put the seat cushion on and I screwed it all in and it was fine, and then I realized that that adjustment contraption couldn't come around to the right side of the seat as intended. So I had to uninstall the seat cushion and then move that wiring to the right side of the seat and then reinstall it. Not a big deal, but it is kind of easy to miss that detail in the picture. So don't be like me. Make sure your seat adjustment knob and wiring is hanging off of the right side of the seat. The next issue I ran into was when screwing the seat cushion in. The two side screws were no problem, but there's also a screw on the bottom that's facing the front of the seat that needs to be screwed in. Before screwing it in, there is a plastic piece on the bottom of the seat cushion that has to flip down and align with that screw hole, and the screw has to go through both the plastic piece and into the screw hole. And the images do kind of illustrate this, but my problem was that when this plastic piece swung down, it was not aligning with the screw hole at all. It was like nowhere near it. It was not close enough to the hole. And I spent some time just being really confused about why this would be and thinking maybe my seat was installed incorrectly, and I kept trying to move it around. And I just kept tinkering with it basically, and eventually I found that the armrests move that plastic piece around, like they're somehow connected, and that if I pull the armrests themselves, like the armrest structure is all the way forward, then that plastic piece swings back further and then gets close enough to the screw hole. So basically, if your plastic piece is not aligning with the screw hole, make sure the armrests are pulled all the way forward. My last little snag was during the backrest installation. So on the seat frame, there is a little plastic clasp that comes off before you put in the backrest. And I saw the instructions saying that there was some kind of button mechanism to release this clasp safely, and for the life of me I could not figure out where this button was and how to release it. So I ended up just kind of prying the clasp off with my fingers, and that did work. It came off, and I don't think I damaged it, but maybe I did. But this was another point in the installation where I definitely probably should have pulled up the instruction video just to know what I was doing. But despite all of those little issues that I ran into, the assembly still only took me about 20 minutes, and I think it would have only taken me like 10 if I had known what I was doing and I didn't have those issues that I was just kind of sorting out with trial and error. Alright, now I'm going to share all of my first impressions I have after using the chair for about a full day. The first thing I noticed about this chair before I ever even sat in it at all is the smell. It has that same smell as like memory foam pillows do when they come fresh, or like a memory foam mattress. Basically, it just has stuff in the foam it needs to off-gas. And I'm hoping that happens pretty quickly because the smell is not great and it kind of gives you, or at least it gives me, a little bit of a headache. But I loved the chair so much I wanted to keep using it, so I'm sticking through the weird gassy smell, and hopefully it resolved quickly. Alright, the second thought that I had once I actually sat in the chair was, wow, this is so comfortable. Oh my god. The seat cushion I feel like has just the right amount of give. The headrest cushioning is also really soft and comfortable, but it does have like lower density, so if you press your head back into it far enough, you'll feel the hard plastic at the back. And for me, that's most noticeable when I lean all the way back, when I recline to like the fully lying down position. The armrest cushioning, if you can call it that, has a little bit of give, but it's not a whole lot. I wouldn't have minded some dense cushion being added onto those also, but it's fine as it is. The backrest flexes sideways quite a bit, so it's actually really easy to like rotate side to side, to lean sideways, or even reach behind you to grab something. Like the backrest just kind of moves with you. It's really nice. And the synchronized reclining is magical. The backrest, the headrest, the armrests, they all in sync go back and forth with each other, and they keep your head aligned in the position that it was already in. So if you were already looking at your monitor, then when you lean back, then you'll still kind of be positioned in a way to look at your monitor still. It's not like you're just totally leaning back and looking toward the sky. Everything stays aligned and your line of sight stays toward wherever it was, which is usually your monitor. This is one of my favorite features of the chair, for sure. But it also freaks me out because I feel like I'm one step closer to being like the seat-ridden people in WALL-E. The massage function feels really nice. I wouldn't call it a true massage really, but it's a nice stretch, because sometimes you just feel like your back needs a stretch. So it is really nice in that sense, but I don't like how it changes the lumbar position, and so you have to reset the lumbar positioning after to where you want it. It doesn't remember where it was previously. So for that reason, I feel like I probably won't remember to use it that much. The battery that powers the lumbar mechanism is rechargeable and also replaceable, so that part's not too concerning, but everyone is kind of concerned about the motor itself. Like if the motor or some other part of the mechanism craps out and you're out of warranty, then I guess your chair just gets stuck in that lumbar position it was set to. And then what happens if it fails during a massage? Are you just stuck in that super stretched position? I don't know. That is one of the main concerns with this chair because of that motor function. This point has kind of been made ad nauseum at this point by like the early reviewers and by the comments in the Kickstarter and by everyone on the Reddit, but I'm just gonna reiterate it, agree with it. The armrests definitely still move a little bit too freely. And I think they did adjust the sensitivity a bit compared to the early review models where the armrest was super freely moving. I feel like they adjusted it a little bit, but it's still a little bit too sensitive. Like it's really easy still to accidentally move your armrests out of the position you wanted them in. And my biggest struggle with this is that I am really used to using my armrests to lift my body up and reposition myself in the chair. And unless you get your arms like pushing the force down perfectly on top of the armrest supports, if you're not straight down on them, then you're gonna like move them somehow. So with this chair, I'm breaking that habit pretty quickly, and the best alternative is to just reach all the way down to the seat and pick myself up using the seat instead. You also can't push the chair around with the armrests for this reason either, because they'll easily just move around instead. The headrest barely comes down low enough for me, so as it is, it's fine, and I also anticipated this to be the case because I am on the very low end of the range of heights they recommend this chair for. But I think LiberNovo is offering the shorter headrest option for folks who want to replace that, so I will be requesting a shorter headrest rod when the gray one comes. Also, the headrest has a bit of play in like the left-right directions, which sometimes feels a little bit funny, a little bit surprising, but not a big deal, just kind of weird for me. I agree with other backers that the tilt settings are a little bit lacking. The Omni chair locks at 4 different reclining angles, and I feel like there's a big jump between the 105 and the 120 settings. It would be really nice if there were some setting that was just kind of right in between those, because 120 actually feels pretty far back compared to fully upright. Okay, here are the actual issues that I've run into with the chair so far. The first is that the seat does not raise up as much as some other office chairs do. My current desk is a built-in desk, and it was built by giants who were very tall, so it's a lot higher than I would have chosen it to be, unfortunately. But with this chair, if I put the armrests at the appropriate height for me, which is all the way down, then I try to raise the chair to bring the armrests to a place where they meet the desk height, then it actually can't quite get there. It's just not tall enough. And this also means that I just am not quite high enough for my desk height in this chair. My desk is just a little bit too high compared to me. So for now, I'm raising the armrest a little bit to meet the desk height and kind of compromise for now, but I'll have to find a different solution long term. The second issue I just kind of mentioned, but the armrests also don't go low enough for me. I'm a very short person, so if I put my arms down and have them not shrugging up at all, then the armrests would have to be actually pretty low, and the Omni armrests just don't go quite that low. So for taller folks, maybe this won't be as much of an issue, but for shorter folks, definitely is. You'll be kind of shrugging with the armrests. However, I have actually seen a number of taller folks in the comments also saying this, that they find the armrests too tall even for them. So that's something to keep in mind. The footrest is also really great, but I have an issue with it, which is that it's meant to compensate for folks under a certain height level, and the footrest comes with 2 possible heights to set it at. And unfortunately, the higher height is still not quite high enough for me to get my whole foot on it. With the chair raised all the way up for my really high desk, then my feet can't quite touch completely. I can get my toes and the balls of my feet on the footrest, but my heels don't touch at all. So it's not the best support, unfortunately. And I feel like the way they built the footrest, they could have easily added more height settings. All they would need to do is add another hole in the footrest rod support thing, and then add some even taller feet for the footrest to rest on. And I think that seems pretty doable. I think they could have done more height options on the footrest, but that's just me, and I also, again, recognize that I'm on the shorter end of their height range recommendation, so I knew this was all going to be probably a problem for me. The final thing that I want to bring up has to do again with the seat adjustment component thing that attaches into the bottom of the seat cushion. My problem with it is that it attaches to the seat cushion with just a plastic ring that screws around, and this plastic ring does not tighten very much. Or maybe mine's just faulty, I'm not sure, but it just doesn't tighten very much, and it feels like it's gonna break if I force it any tighter. So it only goes like 1 or 2 times around, and then it's done, and I can't tighten it any further. And then because that plastic ring that holds it on is so close to the actual seat adjustment knobs, that when I go to adjust my seat without looking, then I sometimes grab the plastic ring instead of the knob, and then I'm starting to turn, and then I don't need to turn very much, and already the plastic ring has come completely undone, and the whole component just falls out into my hand, and I have to screw it back in again. So that's really annoying. I'm hoping that they're not all built like that. Hopefully I just have a faulty unit in that sense, and that for most people the plastic ring is a lot more secure, but on mine, on this black one at least, it is not secure at all. It's very easy to unscrew, and it just falls right out. Alright, now I'm going to go into two of the bigger topics that have been discussed a lot on the Kickstarter comments and stuff. These are just a couple of larger topics that I wanted to address a bit more in depth. The first one is the backrest. I've seen a lot of backers now report that their backrest easily detaches from the frame, and some folks have even fallen out of their chairs due to this. And this brings us back to that little plastic clasp on the seat frame that I was talking about before. That is the thing that holds the backrest on the frame. And apparently that plastic clasp has been failing after only a few days, and it will just pop off, and then the backrest will be liable to pop off as well. One person said that it tends to happen if they flex the backrest side to side more, then it will pop off more easily. And then I've also seen it mentioned that the clasp can be damaged during the installation process if you don't do it properly. Basically, if you damage the locking mechanism on it, then it will not lock properly anymore, and that will cause it to pop off really easily. And in response to this, LiberNovo has now been shipping replacement clasps with a stronger locking mechanism to folks who reach out who have this problem. But now I am slightly concerned that I might run into this problem because I didn't do the installation for that step very properly, really. As I said, I kind of just forced it off of the frame instead of finding the release for it. I didn't release it properly, so maybe I damaged it. I don't know. I guess I'll find out soon if my backrest suddenly pops off too and I get ejected from the seat. But that's been coming up. That's been an issue that is known and has been addressed by LiberNovo. So hopefully when they continue production and make further units of this product, then they will be making it with the stronger clasping mechanism and it won't pop off. And the other thing I've seen about the backrest is that it is just too narrow for some people. I have not encountered this issue at all. Being a smaller person, it feels fine for me. But a lot of folks who are not necessarily taller, but just broader shouldered, they find that their whole back is not being supported by the backrest. So that is something to keep in mind if you do think that you are quite broad-shouldered and you're worried about that. Okay, the second big topic is seat depth, and this has been a big point of contention in the Kickstarter campaign even before the campaign ended. To make a long story much shorter, what happened is that toward the end of the campaign, really close to the end of the campaign, LiberNovo announced that they would be making the seat depth a different measurement from the original planned one. Originally, the default seat depth was going to be 45 centimeters, and then they changed it so that the default seat depth would now be 48 centimeters, and the 45 centimeters was either going to be offered or not depending on the results of a survey. And when I found out about this, I was very upset because I had been going off of the 45 centimeter seat depth, and I of course am always looking for smaller seat depths because most seats are way too deep for me. So I was really concerned to hear that they would be changing the default to 48 and that the 45 might not even be available as an option at all. And what they did is they sent out instructions on how to measure your seat depth based on sitting on a flat surface and measuring, and then you were supposed to respond to a survey that they linked to, and based on the results of the survey, if they had enough demand for it, basically, then they would offer the 45 as the smaller option if people wanted it. But if there weren't enough responses for that, then they were just gonna get rid of that dimension altogether, which seems kind of dishonest. It's not a good look to advertise the campaign this whole entire time with 45 centimeters being the dimension, and everyone backed with that specification in mind. Everyone backed thinking it's 45 and being okay with that. And then at the very end, you're saying oh, if there aren't enough people who want it, then we're gonna get rid of that option entirely, and it's gonna be a bigger dimension. That just seemed kind of wrong to me and a lot of other people. And I have no way of knowing what percentage of backers actually wanted 45 versus 48, but I think there were some vocal minorities on both sides that were just commenting a lot in the Kickstarter, and I think those of us in the 45 camp made enough of a fuss about this just being the wrong way to go about it, that thankfully they kept the 45 option. So that option is available to request later if you go with the default 48 at the beginning, which is what I did because I wanted to get the chairs as soon as possible. I wanted to test them out even with the larger 48cm seat depth, and that was fine with me. And then you can just request the 45 later and they'll ship that to you later for just the cost of shipping. But yeah, that was a lot of drama in the comments. It was spicy and I was so worried about it at the start because I was completely right. For me, the 48 is just too big, it's too long. But it was a really divisive decision to do at the very last minute because some of the taller folks were celebrating it and were even saying like, oh, we want even larger seat depth options, please. And a lot of the folks who wanted the smaller seat depth were disappointed that they would have to like wait longer to get their smaller seat. But ultimately, not the end of the world. Thankfully, they do have the smaller option available still. And as I mentioned, I have been planning to get the smaller seat depth later on once the space gray color comes for me, but I can kind of get away with using this seat as it is right now because the front of the cushion is so squishy. I can still bend my legs back all the way and it just kind of compresses and squeezes that squishy cushion at the front, but it doesn't totally pull my lower back away from the backrest. My 5'5" partner tried out the seat for a little bit and he did not find the seat depth to be a problem at all for him. And when I looked at how much space there was, it looked like there was a good little gap between the back of his legs and the front of the seat. So it looked like he had space, but it also that it wasn't like too much space. So for him at 5'5", I think the 48cm seat depth is actually kind of perfect for him. And I don't think that he will be requesting a shorter seat depth. However, longer-legged folks are taking a huge issue with the seat depth even as it has been increased. It sounds like they are finding that the front of the cushion is so squishy that it's actually not supportive enough. And because their legs are so long, then they have so much leg extending past the front of the seat, and that squishy front seat is not holding it up. For them, it feels like the seat is tilting them forward, and that they're being like pushed forward out of the seat, which doesn't sound fun. And this is by design. The seat is designed to have different densities of foam at different areas, so it's supposed to be denser and more supportive in the back, and then it's supposed to get gradually softer toward the front so that your legs can hang down comfortably. But here's the tea. Some backers are theorizing that the seat pan actually hasn't changed in size at all, like the plastic thing that the foam cushion sits in. The seat pan size has not changed, and all they did to add the extra 3 centimeters at the front was to add more soft cushion to the front pad. And this kind of makes logical sense because everyone was wondering how they were going to pull off such a sudden change in specifications at the very last minute. But just adding more padding into the seat is a lot more conceivable than changing the size of the whole seat pan. This is all really important to know whether you have short legs or long legs or just average. LiberNovo does give out instructions on how to measure like the seat depth that you need and also the headrest height that you need. So I'm going to include the instructions that they give in the description, and you can see for yourself which dimensions would be best for you if you do plan on buying this chair later on. But just know that if you're a shorter person, you probably need 45, and if you're a longer person, then even 48 might not be long enough for you. Another concern people had about the seat depth was leg tucking. People were really worried that if the seat wasn't deep enough, then they wouldn't be able to tuck one or both legs in. For me personally, after using the chair for like a whole day, I actually had no urge to tuck my legs under at all, really surprisingly, because I am actually, with other chairs, I am a leg tucker, and I think that's more due to the fact that I wasn't being supported in the seat very well, and so I would compensate by tucking a leg and just changing my position a lot. Whereas in this chair, I feel like I'm hugged and supported in all places so evenly that I just don't feel the need to compensate with a leg tuck anywhere. But just to see, I did test it out for science, and maybe unsurprisingly, as a very short-legged person, on the 48cm seat, I was able to tuck a leg just fine. I'm able to get a foot under my knee and it feels totally supported. But again, I do have very short legs, so that's another thing to consider. If you have longer legs and you do like leg tucking, then you might not have space to do so on this chair. But if the chair fits you well, then you might also not have the need to. Okay, this has been a very long video. Those are my thoughts on the Omni chair so far. They're just my first impressions. I've only used the chair for like a day. I've only had the chair in my possession for 2 days. But I figured that as a small 5'1" female, it might be useful to get this kind of point of view on the chair, because I think a lot of the reviewers so far have been very tall people. And I do plan on doing a more well-rounded and long-term review after using the chair for a few months, I think. If you have any questions about the chair, about my experience in it as a short person, or even about the Kickstarter campaign, then feel free to leave them in the comments and I will try to include them in my next video. If you are interested in seeing that when it comes out, then feel free to subscribe if you would like to. Okay, I think that is finally everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.